Hey everybody, it's Dr. Tanae here in Houston, Texas, and I want to talk to you today a little bit about autoimmunity. And so my mentor, Dr. Bob Rakowski, has always taught me that when looking at any disease, we need to first ask the question, what's causing the problem? In autoimmune disease, cell injury precedes autoimmunity. And so we might ask, well, what's causing cell injury? There's some sort of trigger that's injuring the cell that's creating this disease process. So if you hang with me for a few minutes, we're going to dive into some of the reasons why there can be cell injury and what can trigger autoimmunity. So trigger number one is actually estrogen. There's a reason that about 80% of autoimmunity occurs in females because it's estrogen related. We have xenoestrogens and metalloestrogens, which are foreign estrogens and estrogens that we don't want that we're exposed to in our environment through antibiotics, birth control pills, pesticides, and many other things. So we really want to focus on eliminating this exposure to all these toxic estrogens and eliminate them from our body. Trigger number two is infection. Typically, a chronic virus can trigger an autoimmune response, and so we want to keep our immune system balanced. We also don't want to be over-sanitized because when we do that, we don't build up any immunity for any infection that we may encounter. I like to say that the immune system is like a muscle. Either you use it or you lose it, so let's use it in the right way. Trigger number three is actually stress. So how many of us suffer with stress on a regular basis? It's impossible to avoid it, so what we need to do is manage our stress and look at it from a different perspective. The top two enemies of the immune system are actually stress and sugar, and what happens is when we are constantly stressed and we're always stimulating that response, our bodies actually down-regulate our receptors and they start to ignore the stimuli. So naturally, cortisol is anti-inflammatory, but if you're always being stressed and you're always releasing cortisol, your body's going to ignore that response, and then you're actually going to have an inflammatory state and your body's going to become very inflamed. Stress also decreases natural killer cells, which are cells that kill cancer. It actually decreases growth hormone and affects many other areas of the body. So we need to manage our stress and keep it regulated for long-term health. Trigger number four is actually environment. There's toxins in our environment, especially mercury. That's a big one. That's a heavy metal that we're exposed to, people who have mercury fillings. There's been tests and research done that show that subtoxic doses of mercury actually increases autoantibodies. So we want to focus on decreasing heavy metal exposure and decreasing toxin exposure in our environment. Trigger number five is diet. So the standard American diet consists of processed foods, dairy, gluten, and a lot of stuff that triggers an immune response. And so we want to eliminate these foods from our diet. Also, blood sugar levels are inversely associated with immune function. So what that means is that the higher your blood sugar level is, the lower your immune system is going to function. The same is true with vitamin D. The lower your vitamin D status, the increased risk you have of developing an autoimmune disease. And so things you can do every day is balancing your blood sugar by eating good quality food and getting outside and getting some vitamin D. Bromides, chlorides, and fluorides also compete for iodine. So bromides are in our bread, chlorides are in our water, fluorides are in our toothpaste, and so by eliminating these exposures, you're not going to compete with iodine, which could potentially have play in autoimmune thyroid. These are all things to consider with our diet, and there's simple changes that you can make every single day. Last but not least would be trigger number six, which would be drugs. There's definitely a time and a place for drugs, but most of the time, it's not the time or the place. So penicillin has been shown to trigger myasthenia gravis, and there's other drugs that have been shown to trigger lupus-like disorders. The good news is that when you remove these drugs, the diseases actually go away. And so avoiding drugs at all costs if you can, that's always your best option, or finding a natural alternative to move forward with whatever ailment that you may have. Alright, little recap here. There's always going to be something that's going to trigger an autoimmune response because cell injury precedes autoimmune disease. That could be estrogen, it could be infection, it could be stress, it could be toxins, it could be diet, it could be drugs. All of the above can trigger some sort of autoimmune response. And so what we want to do is find the trigger and then remove the trigger instead of trying to suppress the immune system. Just because you have elevated serum antibodies does not necessarily mean it's a bad thing. A lot of times antibodies actually carry out dead and dying cells, and so they're protective in nature. This is good in our case, and we like to think of it as weeding the garden because we take the bad out so the good can grow. And this is the same with our bodies and our health. We need the good to grow and get rid of the bad. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video today, and I hope you guys all learned something new. If you know anyone who has an autoimmune disease, feel free to like this video and share this with them because their disease is not their destiny. They need to know that there's another way and they don't need to suffer anymore. Hope you all have a great day and stay healthy. Thank you.